Have you ever encountered a person whose actions spoke louder than words? Welcome to our channel, where today we will introduce you to the silent teacher, who despite not uttering a single word managed to transform the lives of 30 broken students. So get ready to embark on an emotional journey that will leave you inspired and deeply moved. In the heart of a bustling city, there existed a once renowned high school that had fallen on hard times. It was a place where dreams went to die. Academic excellence had been replaced by mediocrity, and the halls that once echoed with laughter now resonated with apathy and failure. This public high school had become a breeding ground for disruptive behavior and negativity. One day, amidst this bleak atmosphere, a new teacher named Ms. Clara stepped into a classroom known for housing the most notorious troublemakers and failures. Walking into the room, she was greeted by a sight that made her heart sink. The students were engaged in a full-blown food fight, their faces twisted in malicious glee as they hurled insults and food alike. Trash littered the floor, desks were overturned, and the air hung heavy with tension. Ms. Clara stood at the entrance, frozen in disbelief. She had never witnessed such utter chaos and destruction in any classroom. As she processed what she had just seen, Ms. Clara realized that this wasn't merely a one-off incident. It was a glimpse into the depths of despair that had consumed this classroom. As she stood there, the weight of the task before her pressed down on her shoulders. She knew that she had to do something drastic, something extraordinary to turn the tide. Amidst the wreckage, Ms. Clara saw glimmers of intelligence and potential in the students' eyes, buried under layers of neglect and bad behavior. Despite the daunting challenge that lay ahead, she was determined to reach them, to ignite a spark of hope in their jaded hearts. Though she understood the severity of the situation, Ms. Clara refused to succumb to fear or despair. Instead, she resolved to confront the destructive forces that had taken root in this classroom. With a deep breath and a steely resolve, Ms. Clara decided to take action. However, her methods were unconventional and left many scratching their heads in confusion. Rather than resorting to traditional disciplinary measures, yelling, punishing, or lecturing, she chose a different path. Ms. Clara didn't utter a single word to her students. She simply observed them day after day. She watched their interactions, listened to their conversations, and observed their behavior. Her silence was deafening, sending shockwaves through the classroom. At first, the students couldn't comprehend her silence. They mocked her, whispering snide remarks about her inability to communicate. Some questioned if she was deaf or mentally challenged. Unable to cope with the silence, they began playing loud music, disrupting the class, and even started skipping class altogether, leaving Miss Clara alone in an empty room. However, amidst this cacophony, Miss Clara remained unfazed. She continued to show up every day, maintaining her composure and patience. Despite the students' best efforts to drive her away, she stood firm, her silence unwavering. Determined to make an impact, Miss Clara decided to break the silence with a few words. Each day she would write a short, powerful sentence on the board. These quotes were carefully chosen to inspire and motivate her students, reminding them of their potential and worth. For instance, she would write, "Even a broken clock is right twice a day," or "Your pain is real, but it's not the end." These enigmatic messages hung in the air, challenging the students to reflect on their own lives and choices. As the days turned into weeks, something remarkable began to happen. The students started responding to Ms. Clara's subtle approach. Initially, it was subtle. A few students began staying after class, not to talk, but to sit quietly in the presence of the enigmatic teacher. Others would leave notes on her desk, sharing their struggles and seeking guidance. Ms. Clara read every note, carefully considering each student's unique situation. She responded by leaving her own short, thoughtful sentences, letting them know that she cared and that they weren't alone. "You are not alone," she would write, "or I see your strength." These simple yet profound words resonated deeply with the students, offering them solace and validation. Among them was a student who had been labeled as incorrigible, always causing trouble and never taking responsibility for his actions. But as Ms. Clara continued to show up day after day, something shifted within him. He began to pay attention to the quotes she wrote on the board. He started staying after class, hoping to connect with his teacher. Little by little, we're getting there. He opened up to Miss Clara, sharing his troubled home life and the challenges he faced. Miss Clara just sat there, really listening, offering him all the support he needed, letting him know that she believed in him and his ability to make a change. Another student who had always felt invisible in the crowded hallways suddenly found himself standing out in Miss Clara's classroom. His classmates noticed his absence and questioned where he had been. When they learned about Miss Clara's unique approach and the impact she was having on him, they began to see him in a new light. Inspired by his transformation, other students started to open up as well, sharing their own stories and seeking Miss Clara's guidance. As the year progressed, the class dynamic shifted dramatically. Fights broke out less frequently and academic performance improved. What was once a chaotic and destructive environment became a place of growth and transformation. Miss Clara's silence had become their safe space, a sanctuary where they could heal and learn without judgment. By mid-year, the class was unrecognizable. The disruptive force that once shook the school had transformed into a beacon of hope and inspiration. Everyone's pumped up and talking about the big event. Students who once struggled to find their place in the world now had a teacher who understood them like no other. They had learned that even in silence, one could convey empathy, understanding, and unwavering support. The school year was wrapping up, and everyone was buzzing with excitement. Ms. Clara wanted to leave her students with one last thought. The last day of class, she wrote a quote on the board that encapsulated her journey with her students. "Silence isn't empty, it's full of answers." The class erupted in applause. Tears filled their eyes as they realized the profound impact their teacher had had on their lives. At that moment, they understood that Ms. Clara's silence had been a source of strength, allowing them to find their voices and discover their inner strength. Little did they know that behind Ms. Clara's enigmatic silence lay a deeply moving truth. As the students filed out of the classroom, the principal entered and shared a secret that left everyone speechless. Ms. Clara, the seemingly mute teacher, was not what she had appeared to be. In fact, she had been struck by a tragic accident years ago that had taken the life of her beloved husband and son. Since then, she had suffered from post-traumatic stress and had been unable to speak. But instead of allowing her trauma to define her, she chose to rise above and help others who were going through similar struggles. She had come to this school not as a victim, but as a silent guide, a beacon of hope for those who felt lost and broken. Her silence had become a bridge connecting her to her students, allowing her to understand and support them in ways that words could not. As the news of Miss Clara's past spread throughout the school, admiration and respect for her grew exponentially. The students realized that behind the stoic facade was a woman who had endured unimaginable pain, yet had found the strength to move forward. In the face of adversity, Ms. Clara had chosen to make a positive impact on the world, proving that one could overcome even the deepest trauma and emerge as a symbol of resilience and compassion. Her story became an inspiration for the entire school community, reminding them that true strength lay not in the absence of struggle, but in one's ability to rise above it. And so the legend of Miss Clara, the silent teacher who changed the lives of 30 broken students, echoed through the halls of that once struggling high school. She had shown them that silence could speak volumes and that the quietest voices could have the loudest impact. As the years passed, the students who had been fortunate enough to have Miss Clara as their teacher carried her lessons with them. They understood that sometimes the greatest healing could come from the quietest places, and that the most profound connections could be forged in the absence of words. If this story has touched your heart, we encourage you to share it with someone who needs a dose of hope. Together, let's spread the message that even in silence, one can make a lasting impact on the world. If you enjoyed this emotional journey, don't forget to subscribe for more real stories that will leave you inspired and uplifted. Thank you for joining us on this channel, and until next time, may you find strength and solace in the power of human connection.